app that is connected to over 10,000 farmers across Pakistan to optimize their production and in turn our exports. Such is the nature of the digital economy. These revolutionary scientific changes are already impacting war and peace, climate change, our economies, our geopolitics and our ways of life. Ladies and gentlemen, when we speak of the future of foreign policy and the role geoeconomics is playing, we must speak about China. Our relations with China are resilient and poised to grow further. The Belt and Road Initiative BRI, of which China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC) is the flagship project, will leverage economic geography and connectivity of the three contiguous continents, Asia, Europe and Africa, ushering in prosperity for all global citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, we value our relations with the United States. Looking towards the future, we do not want a transactional relationship with the US. We want multifaceted ties that are not susceptible to the vagaries of regional and international policies. In line with Prime Minister Imran Khan's vision for a shift from geopolitics to geoeconomics, we want a relationship with the US that is in sync with our changed priority. Enhanced trade and investment ties with the US and cooperation in regard to regional connectivity can work to our mutual advantage. With Russia, our diplomatic outreach has not only led to rapprochement but opened doors for reinvigorated relations in the security and economic realms. The Pak-Russia trajectory is contributing to stability in the region and we will continue to strengthen it. Ladies and gentlemen, the upshot is that a country like Pakistan, sitting astride the crossroads of South, Central and West Asia, cannot make binary choices. We will remain equidistant, accessible to all, reach out to all. And directly connected to all this is the situation in Afghanistan. The UN has warned that 60% of Afghanistan's 38 million people are facing hunger or starvation. There is a dire humanitarian crisis looming which has consequences not only for the people of Afghanistan but indeed us as neighbors, the region and beyond. With this in mind, on the 19th of December, Pakistan will host an extraordinary session of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation to mobilize support for providing adequate food, medicine and housing to millions of Afghans in dire distress. Indeed, I believe Pakistan hosting the OIC extraordinary meeting of foreign ministers on Afghanistan is in line with the leadership role the country has demonstrated in the region. From facilitating peace talks to showing tremendous leadership across unprecedented rescue and evacuations to working closely with international partners for humanitarian outreach and bringing together neighboring countries of Afghanistan and international stakeholders for a coordinated approach. Pakistan continues to work at every level for a stable, peaceful and prosperous regional future. We also continue to host over 4 million Afghan refugees. We have advocated and worked for the establishment of an inclusive polity in Afghanistan, respecting the rights of all ethnic and religious minorities as well as of women. The Afghan government has assured all its neighbors that their soil will not be allowed to be used for terrorism. The same message has been given by Kabul to extra-regional powers. The future of successful foreign policy hinges then on not repeating the strategic blunder of the early 1990s that led to a spate of civil wars, drought and terrorism, whose consequences we have been facing for the past 30 years. The world must learn from their mistakes. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't talk foreign policy challenges without speaking about India. Pakistan's quest for peace and geo-economic strength cannot be a solo performance. It takes two to tango. Soon after taking office, our government made overture after overture, unilaterally, to open channels of communication, to build confidence and to engage India. Our eastern neighbor, however, chose to close all doors on any kind of talks. What's more, it took the most drastic militaristic steps to invade and lay siege to the disputed territory of the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, disenfranchise its 14 million people and brutalize them. New Delhi's actions in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir have created a conundrum for Indian apologists in Kashmir and even for India's foreign friends. Indian atrocities are too egregious to be masked by the veneer of secularism and democratic pretensions. It is the duty of the United Nations and the international community to hold India accountable for this not morally right and excessive state of affairs. India must realize that without resolving the Kashmir issue, we cannot free the peoples of South Asia from perennial instability. Without the necessary global condemnation and intervention, the region will continue to remain insecure and peace and prosperity a major challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, developed and developing countries are all vulnerable to the devastations of the global pandemic. In Pakistan, we have done well in beating the coronavirus by using a mix of smart lockdowns and aggressive vaccination campaigns. The threat is not over. Omicron, the new mutant, casts its ominous shadow and we are bracing for fighting it. Each nation must play its part individually and communally to fight a virus that knows no boundaries. We are all equally vulnerable. The same is the case with climate change. It affects us all without discrimination. Pakistan walks the extra mile to meet climate change goals because it is a compelling national priority. The Asian Development Bank and the World Bank have forecast that Pakistan will incur up to $3.8 billion annually due to the rise in temperatures in the next 2 decades. Last month, at the COP26 Climate Summit, Pakistan unveiled its Ecosystem Restoration Initiative with the support of the World Bank. At the summit, Pakistan also signed the US-led Global Methane Pledge. Prime Minister Imran Khan's vision and roadmap for the 10 billion tree tsunami and clean green Pakistan will go a long way in making Pakistan a model country to combat climate change and its impact. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has put significant efforts into promoting interfaith harmony and tolerance. The Prime Minister has alerted the world continually at the highest forums about the threat posed to world peace by Islamophobia and misguided notions of racial superiority. True to our commitment, we sponsored a resolution at the 47th OIC Council of Foreign Ministers meeting in Niamey in 2020. The resolution inter alia called for declaration of March 15th as the International Day to combat Islamophobia. Ladies and gentlemen, I would conclude with asserting that diplomacy in the 21st century in a post-COVID world needs a multifaceted outlook and one that goes beyond the traditional. One that is cognizant of a world where relationships are changing based on geoeconomics, access, and the use of technology and people-to-people contact, made all the more accessible with digital growth. It is this multi-dimensional outlook and approach that will, I am confident, open new vistas for Pakistan's footprint across the world, enabling us to assume a leadership position in addressing the challenges of a changing geopolitical landscape. Thank you.
उन्होंने कहा कि पाकिस्तान दुनिया की 5वीं बड़ी आबादी है और हमारी आबादी का बड़ा हिस्सा नौजवानों पर मुश्तमिल है। पाकिस्तान की बेहतरी के लिए भी इक़दाम जारी हैं। उन्होंने अफगानिस्तान के हवाले से भी बात की और कहा कि अफगानिस्तान ग़िज़ाई क़िल्लत का शिकार हो सकता है। अगर अफगानिस्तान पर तवज्जो ना दी गई तो बड़ा अलमिया भी जन्म ले सकता है। इस वक्त दुनिया को चाहिए कि वह अफगानिस्तान को बहरानों से निकालने के लिए अपना किरदार अदा करे। वो इस्लामाबाद में मारगला